All right, welcome in, guys. Farzy Vasugian here with you on a Thursday night here on the Chief Zone podcast. It's been a very busy week, our fourth consecutive night doing the Chief Zone podcast. Hey, you guys aren't complaining, so we'll keep doing these. Obviously, no Chief Zone podcast tomorrow. We will be doing the Red Friday live chat. That will be in exactly 22 hours, 5 p.m. Central Time. Come in with your questions. Every single question will get answered. So come in with your questions tomorrow night. But for now, we will be, this won't be as long of a show, but we will have things to get into tonight as we continue to react to some breaking news across the NFL. Another head coaching job just became open. This one from Miami, as Mike McDaniel has been let go. And a lot of people are wondering if there is a possibility that he might end up in Kansas City. So we'll discuss that. Also, some reactions to the Chiefs and some news this week. Obviously, the Rashee Rice news certainly not very optimistic for a majority of Chiefs fans, given the details that have come out from one person's side only. Just want to be very clear on that. Still a lot of things need to be looked into with that story, but it's a story nonetheless that I think has a lot of people kind of on the edge right now, wondering what's going to happen to Rashee Rice. Connor Embree with his job now out the door. People have some questions because Nate Taylor of ESPN did an interview today. He shared some really interesting stuff about Connor Embree that you'll definitely want to hear about. And morning, if you're a Chiefs fan, you are not going to like it, but we will dive into it nonetheless on tonight's podcast. This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. Chiefs football just wrapped up. The Chiefs games I attended this season were thanks to my friends over at SeatGeek. As a matter of fact, I just got my Royals tickets for the upcoming season, courtesy of my friends over at SeatGeek. You guys want to attend anything, whether it's Royals baseball coming up later this year. Right now, we've still got the college football playoffs. Ole Miss and Miami just kicked off. You also got the NBA, the NHL, college basketball, anything you want to attend, the best place for you to go is SeatGeek. That's where I get my sports tickets, and that's where you should as well. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, hey, I got a little gift for you to start off 2026. Use my promo code FARZIN, and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can enter my promo code FARZIN for $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. All right. A lot of things to get into tonight. Appreciate everyone tuning in on this Thursday night as we've got the college football play. Hey, you got options, either me or the college football playoffs. So if you're choosing to tune in to the Chiefs Zone podcast, hey, appreciate you all nonetheless. I suppose you can be doing both. I suppose that is an option as well. Like I said, a lot of things to get into here, and I do want to start off talking about the Connor Embree story here. Of course, just a little over 24 hours ago, he was let go by the Kansas City Chiefs. And Nate Taylor of ESPN did an interview on 96.5 The Fan and was talking about Embree's exit and revealed some details that I don't think anyone has shared before. Obviously, as Chiefs fans, we've been very critical of this position for 3 seasons, especially with the drops that started in 2023. I remember Embree did a press conference where he didn't sound confident in the way he spoke. And some of the answers he gave really left a lot of Chiefs fans perplexed, wondering if this guy is really qualified to be a wide receivers coach. And of course, listen, last year, I get it. You had a lot of injuries, but there were still some problems. DeAndre Hopkins in his very first game lined up offside, just like Kadarius Toney. And I remember when that happened in Vegas, I thought to myself, what is going on? It happened with Kadarius Toney last year. It happened with DeAndre Hopkins this year. And I know what a lot of you guys are saying. Farzine, it's only 2 instances. That's too many. You don't ever hear about wide receivers lining up offside. It happened with Toney, which took away a really cool touchdown play from that lateral from Travis Kelce, and then essentially was the backbreaker in that game for the Chiefs. And then DeAndre Hopkins in his first game with the Chiefs lined up correctly. A guy who is a future first ballot Hall of Famer or going to get in very quickly to the Hall of Fame suddenly did not know how to line up in his first game with the Chiefs. I find that hard to believe. And then this year, you had the wide receiver trio of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown finally together. You also have Tyquan Thornton, who's part of this depth chart and was not utilized very well. And we do got to get into that a little later on because I know there are some things going on about Rashee Rice, but you had that wide receiver group, EGE. Remember, everybody got to eat. I don't think everybody ate this year, if we're being completely honest. And I think there are a myriad of reasons for that. But I've been telling you guys all along that the drops, the bad route running, just the ineffectiveness with the wide receivers this season, I think a lot of that is on coaching, on offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, and on wide receivers coach Connor Embree, both who are probably not coming back. Nagy, yeah, he's obviously pursuing head coaching opportunities. He's got 4 job interviews this weekend, maybe more that we don't know about. And then Connor Embree, I mean, a lot of people are criticizing the fact that this guy's resume isn't really the greatest. He was the offensive coordinator for Blue Valley West High School. That is where he graduated from. And then he was a graduate assistant at Kansas, where he played college football for a couple of years after transferring from UNLV. Then for Fairview High School in Colorado, which is where he was born in Colorado. I don't know how far Fairview is from Superior, which is where he was born, but he was the wide receivers coach there in 2017. Then in 2019, didn't coach in 2018, don't know why, but in 2019 to 2020, he became the defensive assistant for the Chiefs. 2021 to 2022, offensive quality control, and from 2023 to 2025 was the wide receivers coach for the Chiefs. And during that time, I don't know if you can really say there's been any kind of development made at the wide receiver position. Sure, the second half of Rashee Rice's rookie career, he looked really good, and he had a great postseason. I think he has the rookie record for most receptions in a postseason. So he really contributed in a big manner in the postseason his rookie year. And to start off 2024, he got off to a really good start. In the 3 games he played, he was top 5 in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdown catches. But then he had that injury. And then Rice came back from his suspension this year, missed almost a year of playing time. And he just wasn't the effective wide receiver we expected. Xavier Worthy, who has a really difficult time in his 2 seasons. Yes, he's got great speed. Obviously broke the record for fastest 40 time at the scouting combine last year in the scouting combine's history. Has a difficult time staying in bounds when trying to make a catch. I mean, that's an issue with Xavier Worthy. Now, the pushback I've gotten from a lot of you guys is that Farzine, the receivers aren't dropping passes. The receivers aren't the ones, or I'm sorry, the coaches are not the ones dropping passes. The coaches are not the ones, struggling to stay in bounds near the sidelines. And I get that. I'm aware who's on the sidelines and who's on the field. I'm very well aware of that. But when players struggle, and it's not just one player, we had drops all across the board. We had bad route running all over the field with the offense. When that's happening with more than one player, it is the coach's job to identify the weakness, figure out why it's a weakness, and provide tools to fix that weakness. Connor Embree never did that, nor did Matt Nagy. Look, as a positions coach, you got to make sure that you're out there bringing the best out of your players. Connor Embree did not do that. Can you listen? I know Rashee Rice has missed a bunch of games. In fact, I think he's missed 23 to be exact in the last 2 years. So, had he stayed healthy, could he have been? Could we be talking about a different wide receiver? Sure, but at the end of the day, it's not like Rice was the only good receiver on the team. I mean, this team has some talented wide receivers that they've had for a while. I mean, you had Hollywood Brown all of this year. You've had Xavier Worthy. Yeah, he missed some games this year, but just a couple. He came back. He was still torching defenders, just wasn't able to connect deep down the field with Patrick Mahomes. And maybe that's a whole separate issue, which we've discussed many times. But we never saw Worthy find a way to keep his feet in bounds when trying to make a catch near the sidelines. So what was it with this team? Because according to Nate Taylor of ESPN in his interview on 96.5 The Fan, he said that the wide receivers were getting frustrated with Connor Embree. And he also added that there's an argument to be made that DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce, those guys probably were better mentors to the wide receivers than Connor Embree was. And obviously he's referring to the fact that last year in late October, the Chiefs acquired DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans. The fact that Hopkins for half a season was more impactful to the wide receivers than Connor Embree, the wide receivers coach, is a serious problem. And listen, I remember Chiefs fans were upset when Hopkins chose not to come back. Can you blame him? He didn't want to come back to the most incompetent wide receivers coach probably in NFL history. Why would you? I mean, that guy, again, is a future Hall of Famer who quickly realized why this wide receiver group was struggling. Even with the injuries to Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown last year, he understood why it was an issue with the team to the point where he chose not to come back. And I don't blame him, man. I mean, listen, anytime an elite player like Hopkins puts on that red and gold jersey, I want them to live and breathe Chiefs football till they hang up the cleats. But you also can't blame someone for looking out for themselves. And listen, I know Baltimore didn't make the playoffs this year, but they came way closer than Kansas City did. I mean, he got out of a bad situation. So bad that Connor Embree got fired this year. And he was probably on borrowed time because of the fact the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl in Embree's first 2 years as the wide receivers coach. Listen, I will say this. I think part of the problem with the coaching staff is because the Chiefs have played in the February 3 years in a row, they really don't have much of an opportunity to put together an ideal coaching staff because by the first or second week of February, every team has basically got their staff put together, with the exception of, maybe one or two spots from a few teams. So they were kind of stuck with Embree, whether they liked it or not. But Andy Reid has to bear the responsibility on this. This is his staff here at the end of the day. Clark Hunt does not manage the coaching staff. Brett Veach does not manage the coaching staff. This is all Andy Reid's job. Andy Reid is in charge of this. And if you're going to have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who is expected to chase Tom Brady for, Super Bowls and all kinds of passing records by the time his career is over, a lot of people are saying Mahomes, maybe not the GOAT. That's certainly Brady, but for a guy who's only played, 8 or 9 seasons, he's already ahead of so many quarterbacks. There are only a couple of quarterbacks in front of him. Montana, Brady, that might be it. Like if Mahomes' career ended today and you had to say where he ranks all time, minimum's got to be third behind Montana and Brady. But when you look at not just the talent, because I think there was talent. And Nate Taylor said it in his interview. Listen, Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Sky Moore, they weren't the best receivers in the world, but they've got talent. Sky Moore, not as a receiver, but as a returner, was able to show something. Marquez Valdes-Scantling played for New Orleans for half a season. He was catching everything Derek Carr was throwing to him. So why was it that Marquez Valdes-Scantling didn't drop a pass last year or didn't consistently drop passes with Carr throwing to him, but it was an issue in Kansas City? I'll even take it back a year further. In 2022, who were your wide receivers? Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's remove his name for a moment because he did not come back for 2023, because that's where I'm going with this question here. The rest of your wide receivers in 2022 were Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, who you acquired midseason via trade from the Giants. And Kadarius Toney picked up this offense quickly in 2022. Kadarius Toney looked like a guy who was going to be the number one wide receiver of the future for the Chiefs. That's how confident they were in him. Now, what happened in the offseason after Super Bowl 57, transitioning to 2023? Eric Bieniemy moved on. He had to prove his abilities elsewhere. So Matt Nagy was promoted to offensive coordinator, and Connor Embree was promoted to wide receivers coach. And from the very first game of 2023, Marquez Valdes-Scantling couldn't catch. Kadarius Toney couldn't catch. Sky Moore couldn't catch. Justin Watson, as the season went on, couldn't catch. Justin Ross, who had all this hype coming out of college, was undrafted because of his injuries. So the Chiefs got him and they held on to him for more than a year. Justin Ross got a few opportunities. And in the very few opportunities he got, even he was dropping passes. So sure, yeah, the players are responsible for being able to hold on to the football. But if they're not able to, then it's the coach's job to identify the issue, figure out why it's an issue, and find a solution for it. A solution was never found out because the drops carried over to this year. Andy Reid even said it in one of his press conferences on Monday after a game. I can't remember which one exactly. I think it was after the Houston game. He says, I don't know where the drops came from. Those came sneaking back to the Chiefs offense. And like I said, I think Andy Reid has to really own responsibility here because he gave this job to Connor Embree and probably let him keep the job longer than he should have. Look, I don't know who the next wide receivers coach is going to be for the Chiefs, but I don't think you could get any worse than Embree. Look, I've been podcasting about the Chiefs since 2007. That was before a lot of people even knew what podcasting was. And if you're a podcaster for a specific team, you are following the team very closely. And I've been following this team very closely for 20 years. I've never seen fans for multiple years pay so close attention to a specific position coach on the team. I mean, everyone's always talking about the head coach and the coordinators. That's normal. But a positions coach in Kansas City, like, be honest with me, chat. When have you ever seen Chiefs fans be so worked up and focus on a positions coach? I seriously cannot recall one. I guess maybe on Hard Knocks when, Tim Krumrie was on there and that was entertaining to watch. And by the way, I'm excluding coordinators that also carry also a position coach as part of their title. Like I remember Todd Haley when he fired Chan Gailey, he was the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback's coach. Like I'm not including that. I know Charlie Weiss when he was here, I believe he was the offensive coordinator and the QB's coach. I know Gunther Cunningham for 1 year was the defensive coordinator and the linebackers coach. I'm not including coordinators that are also a position coach. I'm talking guys who are just a positions coach. Has anyone ever been that focused on a positions coach in Kansas City? I don't think anyone ever has. I think the most frustrating part here is because I was earlier talking about how Mahomes, might be the most talented quarterback of all time, and you gave him a bad offense for 3 seasons. Look where the Chiefs ranked from 2018 to 2022 in total offense and points scored. They were top 6 all 5 of those years. Now look at the last 3 years when Nagy became the offensive coordinator and Embree was the wide receivers coach. They never finished better than 15th in points per game. They were 15th in 2023, 15th in 2024. This year they were 21st. But right before Mahomes' injury, they ranked 15th. Well, he got hurt late in the Chargers game. So after that injury, to be clear, which is also right when the Chiefs got eliminated from playoff contention with 3 games to go, the Chiefs ranked 15th in points scored. Total offense in 2023 was 9th, then 16th, and then 20th. I mean, this offense has really fallen apart. And I think coaching is a big part of it. Look, I don't blame DeAndre Hopkins for not coming back. Of course, Hopkins would have loved to play for Andy Reid and play alongside Patrick Mahomes for a full year. I was excited about that being a possibility. But can you blame him for not wanting Connor Embree as a wide receivers coach? Why would anyone want him as a wide receivers coach? And listen, there's always the possibility of improving and getting better. And Embree certainly has earned the opportunity to get a second chance elsewhere. So we'll see if another team gives him an opportunity, whether it's a wide receivers coach or as a quality control coach, or maybe he goes back to the high school level. I don't know. I don't know how Blue Valley West and Fairview High School did when Embree was there as an offensive assistant. Maybe that's the better coaching job for him. I don't know. That's for him to figure out. But man, this is just malpractice. Because look at Andy Reid. Andy Reid is 67, going to turn 68 in March. Realistically speaking, he probably has 2 or 3 years left in him as a coach. He owes it to himself to have the best coaching staff possible. This is not a time for Andy Reid to give golden opportunities to young guys that have never coached a key position in a big stage before. I mean, this just isn't the place to do that. When Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you need the best offensive line possible, and you need the best wide receivers possible. You need the best offensive coaching staff possible. Now, I think it's easy to say the Chiefs wasted 3 years. They went to the Super Bowl 2 of those years. I think Patrick Mahomes masked a lot of issues on this football team over the last 3 years. In 2023, the drops, I mean, they were on record pace. Last year, the injuries, which I can excuse that a little bit for the offensive coordinator and the wide receivers coach, but boy, did Mahomes not really pull through for you. And I know there were a lot of ugly wins last year, but man, he really came through for you in tight situations. And then when Mahomes got hurt, how many touchdowns did the Chiefs score in the 3 games without Patrick Mahomes? Just 1. And it's not like they were playing, a gauntlet of NFL teams. They played the Broncos. Ironically, that's the only team the Chiefs scored a touchdown against, but they couldn't score against the Titans. They couldn't score against the freaking Raiders, the worst team in the NFL. So for all of you people out there that say Patrick Mahomes needed Andy Reid more than Andy Reid needed Patrick Mahomes, that crowd is very silent lately. They are realizing that Patrick Mahomes is the glue that kept this team together. It's not an accident that this team started winning playoff games and championships and went to 7 straight AFC title games since Mahomes became the starting quarterback. It's not a coincidence. It's not an accident. So, man, if you are Andy Reid, let this be a learning lesson for you. I mean, he should already know how to put together a good coaching staff by now. I mean, he's in the waning moments of his coaching career. And again, because he's only got maybe a couple of years left of coach, maybe 2 or 3 years left of coaching, you owe it to yourself to give yourself one more championship run. And in order to do that, you got to have the best coaching staff around you. Guys, coaching matters. You can have all the talented players in the world. I don't care. Look at 2013. The Chiefs had merely the same roster from 2012 to 2013. They just changed the quarterback, bringing in Alex Smith, and then they changed a couple of I think they changed like 4 or 5 of the starters on offense and only 3 on defense. That team went from a 2-win football team to starting off 9-0. Tamba Hali said it that year. It's coaching that allowed them to already surpass their win total by week 4. Coaching matters, man. Embree just wasn't the guy. He just wasn't the guy. Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. It makes every playoff moment feel bigger. Last month, of course, was a big month for Missouri as DraftKings Sportsbook launched and went live in the Show Me State. Now we are making that transition to the NFL playoffs. Look, if you didn't hop on last month or at any point this season, that's okay. It is never too late with the NFL playoffs starting this weekend. In fact, I'll give you my favorite game for Wild Card Weekend. I'm going to go on the NFC side, a big rivalry, Packers-Bears, a rivalry that started back in 1921. The Bears have been a lot of fun to watch this year under Ben Johnson's first year as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Meanwhile, the Packers ended the season on a little bit of a slump, but they're getting Jordan Love back. He will start this weekend against the Bears. And get this is going to be the third meeting between the two teams in the span of 34 days. The Packers won the first game, the Bears won the second game, and we're about to find out who wins round 3 and who will advance to the divisional round. The line is currently set at 1.5 in favor of the Bears, so you know it's going to be a good one. You know it's going to be fun to watch. This is my game of the weekend. I am not only picking the Bears to win, but I think they will cover that 1.5 point spread. DraftKings Sportsbook has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down in the first half, you still get paid in cash. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code ChiefZone. That's code ChiefZone to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right, so the big breaking news in the NFL today, the Miami Dolphins fired Mike McDaniel. A lot of reports came out at the end of the regular season that Mike McDaniel's job was safe. Well, here's my question. Who really fired Mike McDaniel? Was it the Dolphins or was it the Ravens? Because I think with Harbaugh getting let go, which people weren't sure if it was going to really happen or not, that's become a domino effect. And here's my theory on this year's coaching cycle. Obviously, there are guys like Matt Nagy, Vance Joseph, Raheem Morris, Cliff Kingsbury, so many guys that are getting head coaching looks across the league, so many more names. It's a very interesting year for guys who are going to be incoming head coaches for 2026. But because of the Harbaugh availability, and by the way, we have 6 games this weekend for the NFL playoffs. The 6 teams that lose, how many of them would seriously consider letting their coach go for Harbaugh? Man, this is going to be interesting. Here's my theory on this coaching cycle. I don't think you're going to see a lot of official signings until Harbaugh signs. You might see one or two, but I think the rest of the teams are going to wait and see what happens to Harbaugh, because a lot of teams are going to want John Harbaugh. Once Harbaugh finally picks a spot, because he's going to get offers from everyone. Why wouldn't they offer for a job to Harbaugh? But once Harbaugh officially picks his place, I think that's when all the other teams that didn't get Harbaugh are going to go to plan B and then plan C, whoever becomes available at that point. So Joey says Harbaugh will be signed by the Dolphins within 48 hours. I can see why you think that, because maybe Miami just made that decision today on a Thursday to fire him. But if you're Harbaugh, you would be smart to wait. Why rush this? Again, Harbaugh's in his early 60s. I think he's 63. So you owe it to your, because Harbaugh might have one coaching run left for himself. He's not going to go to the Raiders. He's not going to go to a team that has absolutely no shot whatsoever at a championship, especially when the Raiders are going through a coaching cycle change every year. Listen, Harbaugh better wait and see which playoff teams that lose this weekend will part ways with their coach. Listen, I'm picking Buffalo to win this weekend. However, if somehow they don't win, if they don't beat Jacksonville, Sean McDermott's got to go. Absolutely must go. Do you not think Harbaugh would immediately run to Buffalo? Oh, he'll be singing "Let's Go Buffalo." He will be singing that all the way to Buffalo. Why wouldn't you want to go to a spot where you could coach Josh Allen? I'm not in any hurry to accept a job with Miami or any other team that has a head coaching vacancy. Wait for one of these playoff teams. Dylan says Harbaugh might take a year off. That's what I said earlier this week, but it doesn't sound like he wants to. It sounds like he wants to get back right into it. And listen, if the Bills job opens up, you take that Bills job. Like, screw every other team that has a head coaching vacancy. You take a job to go coach Josh Allen. That is 100% what will happen if the Bills lose this weekend. That's just my prediction. Okay, I have to get into this. The story of Rashee Rice. Now, we went over this yesterday. For those who have heard of the story but don't know much about it, I'll give you the quick version of it real fast. So Rashee Rice's ex, her name is Dakota Nicole. It's a public account. You can go to her Instagram and see for yourself. She put out a very lengthy Instagram post, not necessarily referring to Rashee Rice by name, but if you look through her Instagram, you'll see the two of them have pictures together. She basically made it very clear that, according to her, just to be clear, this is an allegation, but she is alleging that she's been dealing with physical abuse. Apparently, Rice has gone into her new home and has damaged property inside. She has pictures of her face, her lip, her leg, all bruised up. She has pictures of the house that an entire closet was basically destroyed. It looks like a tornado went in there and came right out. It is there, though. Those pictures are very disturbing, very, very disturbing. She even mentions Rice was caught cheating and he locked her out in 10-degree weather. She says he would rather be laid up by hoes. I mean, this is ugly. This is really, really ugly. The fact that this came out in the public eye like this, it kind of reminded me of Tyreek Hill and his ex-fiance. The fact that she felt the need to record him while they were at an airport and decided to release it to the local media. And eventually the full audio came out. When a toxic relationship becomes this public, there are a lot of things that need to be figured out. Now, again, let me be very clear about something. I said this yesterday. I said this on social media. I'll tell you again right now. We do not know all of the facts to the story. We only have one person's side of the story. We saw with the Tyreek Hill child abuse allegation that I was just referring to a moment ago. That story seemed very bad for Tyreek Hill, and it was still a bad situation on both sides, but it wasn't as bad towards Tyreek Hill as it looked. Remember how Channel 5 picked and chose which parts of the audio to share? I mean, it looked bad, but when you got the full context, it was still bad for both sides, just not as bad as it seemed for Tyreek Hill. Xavier Worthy last year, it seemed like he was in hot water, but once some of the details of the story came out, it was, first of all, the DA in Texas dismissed the charge and dropped the charge against Rice and was no longer looking into it after talking to witnesses. Because originally we saw that Worthy was arrested and charged, but there was more to the story than what we initially heard. So, listen, is Rashee Rice going to come out with his side of the story? Probably not. But I'm sure the NFL and the Chiefs, which, by the way, both the Chiefs and a spokesperson from the NFL have issued a statement letting it be known that they're aware of this and they are looking into it. Obviously, they're not going to say much more than that. Now, again, like I said, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not call for the Chiefs to cut Rice right now. Because if we do that and this comes out days or weeks later that this was, a misunderstanding or she lied, it's just not a good look. However, I think we know enough by now that this is becoming a problem for Rice. Let me give you guys an example. Nobody in high school consistently goes to the principal's office by accident. I mean, if you know of someone that's constantly having to speak with a counselor or a principal because of behavior or rules they broke, that student's got an issue. Rashee Rice has had 3 incidents that his name has been tied into, and they're not good. Obviously, we know about the Dallas incident where he was racing with his buddies on the highway, causing a 6-vehicle wreck. And on top of that, he and his buddies fled the scene, which is never a good look. And then the same offseason, he was at some nightclub, and I guess there was some sort of misunderstanding with a photographer, whether or not the photographer could take photos. The photographer alleges that Rashee Rice assaulted him. Now, the owner of the nightclub came to Rice's defense, questioning those allegations, and that ended up getting dropped. We didn't really get a lot of information from that incident. So there were 2 incidents with Rice then. Now, obviously, we learned this year, Rashee Rice accepted a 6-game suspension from the league, and on top of that, he was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 5 years probation. That is going to last through July of 2030. So 4.5 years of probation left. And while on probation, he's facing a very serious accusation. And again, we don't know all the facts. We don't have all the evidence. We don't know the full story here. We don't even have his side of the story, which is important to wait on in terms of whether or not you should cut him right now. However, there is one thing that I think the Chiefs, regardless, let's assume best case scenario for Rashee Rice. Let's assume she lied or this is a big misunderstanding, or maybe she was just angry. Okay? Maybe those bruises were self-inflicted just to make him look bad. Let's assume best case scenario for Rice. Here's my question to you guys. Because Rashee Rice is heading into the final year of his rookie deal. After 2026, the Chiefs can either franchise tag him, extend him, re-sign him, or he can go elsewhere. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, do you even consider giving this guy a second contract? I mean, I don't know if he's worth the headache anymore. Look, when you look at Rashee Rice, and again, we have to wait on the details that come out, but it is worth noting that Rashee Rice has missed 23 games in the last 2 seasons, 17 due to injury, multiple injuries, 6 due to a suspension. And yes, his performance this season was underwhelming with a lot of drops. Wasn't even close to the 4 games he had last year where he was balling out. Here's my thing, man. I don't think he's getting that big contract extension. And again, let's assume best case scenario and that he is innocent and proved he clears his name of any wrongdoing. Let's put it that way. Would the Chiefs keep him around after 2026? Would they let him walk? Would they tag him and trade him? I mean, I don't know, man. 3 incidents. You had 2 in the 2024 offseason, and the last one was May of 2024. 19 months later, he finds himself in a really bad position where his ex is making serious accusations against him. Again, we don't know all the facts, so we're going to wait before jumping to conclusions. But this is Rice's 3rd time being tied into an incident here. And he still has yet to serve his 30-day jail sentence. So from a legal standpoint, this isn't really the best look. Now, again, we got to wait for the facts. I keep telling you guys this. Now, in the public eye, to a lot of you guys, has Rice earned the benefit of the doubt? Probably not. So a lot of people have already made their decision on Rice, which again, I mean, the public's view does not matter. It's going to be up to the team and also up to people in the legal area who will come down with a decision on this. Again, it's his 3rd time that his name is tied to something, and he's on probation until July of 2030, man. Is this someone the Chiefs can look at and offer a massive contract extension to a year from now? I mean, it just feels like a very risky idea. For those in the last 24 hours who are saying trade Rashee Rice, who's gonna get him? I mean, I suppose it's worth looking into, but he's on probation and he's right now facing a very serious allegation. Who's going to trade for him? I mean, listen, whoever you think is the absolute most desperate team, not in the AFC West, for a wide receiver, what are they going to offer? They'll probably say a 7th. And with negotiations, Veach might be able to pull off a 6th at the most. Nobody's giving up anything more than a day 3 draft pick for Rashee Rice right now, because they realize he might not be worth keeping around long term. I mean, I just don't know whether it's in Kansas City or elsewhere. I just don't know how any team could look at Rice right now and say, this guy's worth giving a 3, 4, 5 year, 6 year contract extension to that'll be worth more than $100 million. Let's say, again, his name is clear from any wrongdoing and he balls out in 2026. Because, listen, I know he's entering the final year of his deal. I don't think he's in any position to demand a contract this offseason. He's missed 23 games in the last 2 years. I mean, you're just not in any position to demand a big contract. You're just not. But let's say he plays under the final year of his rookie deal and absolutely goes off, all pro, Pro Bowl, all that stuff. The Chiefs then have a decision to make. Do they tag and keep him, or do they tag and trade him? Because if he has a great 2026 season, there will be at least one team that it's willing to take the risk on Rashee Rice. But man, again, innocent until proven guilty. But how likely is it that the Chiefs are going to want to re-sign and keep him long term? And listen, we've got to understand the last several years for the Chiefs from a PR standpoint has not been very good. The Worthy situation, the Britt Reed incident from a few years ago, And you got so many other things. It's Tyreek Hill, which I know Tyreek Hill's name was cleared, but to even be in that incident, because look at Tyreek Hill right now. This guy's been involved in so many. He's constantly getting accused of assault at some lake or beach where he was on a boat with his agent. He was accused of assault there. I guess he was training people in his backyard and was accused of assault. One of his exes came out and accused him of you don't just find yourself in that position by accident. I mean, even surrounding yourself with the wrong people can possibly negatively impact your NFL career. So again, Rice has things to figure out who to associate himself with. And the Chiefs, they've got to find out, is this someone worth keeping around beyond 2026? Or is it possible to trade him and get some? Maybe I'm dead ass wrong here. Maybe the Chiefs absolutely can get something from Rice if they trade him this offseason. But I doubt it right now. Let's be real. If you're the general manager of any of the other NFL teams, again, not in the AFC West, because you don't ever want to risk trading a potential All-Pro to the Raiders. Would you trade for someone that is currently on probation and is facing a very serious accusation? Because you kind of you have to ask, is this guy worth it? In the last 2 years, again, he's missed 23 games. We have spent more time talking about Rice being available than actually talking about Rice and his football abilities. I mean, Rice he's gradually becoming a liability. This is not a good situation. This is not a good situation for anybody. If you guys want to call in with your thoughts on this, I'll put the link right there. I know we don't do calls on non-game days, but if you guys are interested, I'd love to hear from you. Joey says, what legal process? She still hasn't reported anything to law enforcement. That is true, but if someone is publicly accusing you of domestic violence, logic would tell you that this might go to the legal realm at some point. I mean, I'd be surprised if it doesn't. Now, I had a friend tell me maybe she did this because an attorney told her she doesn't have enough evidence, which, by the way, I didn't mention the most important part about all of this. In the comment section of her post, a lot of people who are identifying as Rashee Rice's grandmother, she has been lashing out against Dakota Nicole. And Dakota Nicole, I guess these are people who are either family members of Dakota or they're very close friends. Rashee Rice's grandma is claiming that her claims can be proven wrong. And Dakota's friends and family, they're fighting back saying, oh, no, we have evidence that this is true. Oh, boy. Like I said, look, again, I'm not Dr. John Deloney. I'm not Dr. Laura. But I don't think you need to be a psychotherapist to know that when a relationship or a former relationship is put out publicly like this, it's not good. You got to do a lot of self-reflection and surround yourself with the right people, especially the person you want to fall in love and make kids with, because it is not good. I think it looks worse because the Chiefs are one of the stronger team cultures in the league. Yeah, I mean, again, they've just had a lot of these bad incidents in years past to where it's like, no team ever wants to deal with this. Do you think Brad G, who is part of the Chiefs public relations department, do you think he enjoys putting out statements like this? How many times has he issued a statement like this for the Chiefs? It's happening over and over and over again. It's not good. Tony says, didn't Rice have an issue with a weapon when he was at SMU? Yes, and I don't know all of the details to that, but there was an incident at SMU, yes. Wonder if he'll still do his camp he is doing. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not too worried about that, Lacey. I mean, it's a valid question. I'm just not really focused on that. It's happening too far often in the league as a whole. there has to be ongoing discussions about players and decision makings. There was one. It was called the NFL Rookie Symposium. They don't do it no more for whatever reason. And listen, maybe it doesn't matter because the Rookie Symposium, when it was a thing, players were still getting into trouble anyway. You know what, man? I'll tell you the solution to all of this. The NFL needs to come down with serious consequences. You want to find yourself in a bad spot? You want to race on the highway? You really want to be a domestic abuser? You want to break the law? We're going to hand out serious consequences. Make it a 7-figure fine. No, listen, I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes or if you're a 7th round rookie. Nobody wants to be fined $1 million. Nobody. So start going a pair if you're the NFL and start fining these guys serious amounts of dollars. Hand out bigger suspensions. And if you make these guys miss half a season, if they're found guilty of domestic violence, dude, I guarantee you all the kids in high school and college that want to play in the NFL, they're going to be like, oh, that guy just got suspended half a season and lost at least $1 million. Yeah, I don't ever want to lose that kind of money. I better keep my nose clean. Jordan says if those allegations come out true, it is time to move on. I 100% agree. If that is true, yes, 1000% agree. Dr. Farsi and Ruth. Yeah, I don't know about that one, man. I would not give the best life advice. But again, it's like, let me tell you guys a story about surrounding yourself with the right people. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school, and that is something I was okay with. The very few friends I had, one guy in specific who was kind of, I guess, the group leader, if you will, he got into trouble legally. And this is high school we're talking about here. Whether drinking, whatever. And let's just say he's had a pair of handcuffs on him before. Not with me around. But other times he has. And when I graduated from high school, I just got to realize, like, if I'm going to stay friends with this guy, I'm going to be guilty by association. I will also have a pair of handcuffs on my hands behind my back, even if I did nothing, just being around with him. So I cut ties with that guy. Listen, I don't know what he's up to. I hope he's doing okay. Certainly don't wish anyone to stay in trouble forever. You owe it to yourself to get yourself out of that situation. But if the people you surround yourself with get in trouble all the time, you're going to get in trouble with them just for being associated with them. Nothing good comes out of any of that stuff. So whether it's your buddies, whether it's a girlfriend, man, guys really got to do a better job of putting themselves with the right people. And listen, I know there are a lot of questions. Why did she just now come out with this? Why for 8 years she was dealing with abuse and never said anything? Listen, there's a lot of conversations to be had about that. There are a lot of people that deal with domestic violence and do not come out with it publicly. I'm not saying I defend her for this, for not saying anything and coming out about it this way. Not at all. Maybe she felt like she had no other option. I don't know, man. People do crazy things for love sometimes. And unfortunately, it leads to when you or your partner are in the public sphere, like Rashee Rice is. And listen, all of these, especially a team like the Chiefs that have been great for 7 years until this year, of course, a lot of the wives and girlfriends, they end up getting a solid following on Instagram. I mean, Patrick Mahomes' wife, even before she became like the owner of the KC Current, she had a massive following on social media. But now with some of these other wives and girlfriends on the Chiefs, they all have solid followings just because of their association to their boyfriend or their husband that plays for the Chiefs. Hell, some of them have been hanging out with Taylor Swift, and that alone has helped their Instagram following, if you will. None of this came out until Rashee Rice was linked to dating a rapper. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I don't really know the significance of that in terms of just figuring out whether or not Rashee Rice is innocent or guilty in all of this. Do you think maybe she signed a non-disclosure? I don't know. They're secretly seething? Yeah. Guaranteed Clark Hunt is pissed. Joey says 100%. I mean, hey, listen, I know the Hunt family. I believe all of their kids have graduated or are currently attending SMU. So they're always going to be biased towards SMU. When the Chiefs went to the White House after to celebrate Super Bowl 58, the Hunt family took a group picture with Rashee Rice. So they're big fans of his. They absolutely are. But you know, I don't care if this is a guy that you really like, especially because he's good and went to the same college, is from the same neck of the woods as you guys. If this guy's constantly getting into trouble, and again, I want to be very clear, we need to wait for all the facts to come out. But this is already just not a good look. Like, not only was trading Tyreek Hill a great idea because you won 2 Super Bowls without him, almost a third without him, but one big reason why it was a great idea to get rid of Tyreek Hill, dude, that guy's been nothing but a headache in Miami. Not only have they not been able to win a playoff game with Tyreek Hill, but he's constantly making headlines for all of the wrong reasons. Do you think the Miami Dolphins front office is thrilled they gave up all of those draft picks for a guy that, one, they were not able to win a playoff game with, and number 2, is constantly finding himself in hot water? Like, there's no team that ever thinks it's worth it to give up that many draft picks for a player like that. Yes, he's great. We obviously know about Tyreek Hill's ability. Jordan says, I used to be in the Army, and whenever you get in trouble, you get a thing called UCMJ. By the way, thank you for your service, Jordan. That is greatly appreciated. Hey, air horns for that. Always appreciate first responders and military personnel, which is something you don't want, which leads to an Article 15, and that's how you get the best soldiers. Plain and simple. Whether it's the NFL, whether it's the Army, whether it's working at an office. Man, you keep getting into trouble, no boss is going to want to keep you around. They're just not. You're just not going to stick around longer. Yeah, Joey, most contracts do have that. In fact, I think every contract should have that. But you still don't ever want to find yourself in that position, because if you could look into the future, which obviously no one can, let me put it to you like this. Like, if the Miami Dolphins knew that Tyreek Hill was going to be a headache, there's no way in hell they would have given up all those draft picks. There's no way. He would still be a Kansas City Chief. So, of course, if you get someone, you want to keep them forever and hope they stay out of trouble. They stay healthy. Listen, injuries, that's bad luck. That happens. He's missed 17 games due to injuries. The other 6 games he's missed, that's Rashee Rice's fault. You never want to have that. Never want to have that. Robert says the league's hands are probably tied by the Players Association and not agreeing to drastic measures. That is very true. Because if, let's say Rice is guilty here and they want to make him an example, the NFLPA is going to say, nah, you're not setting a precedent now. You're just not. So they need to make serious rule changes. And I wish the NFLPA would kind of bite the bullet and be like, yeah, we got to make sure we've got good character in the league. I mean, the NFL gives out fines for throat slashes, basically unsportsmanlike gestures. I mean, if you can do that, then you can hand out bigger consequences. And I think the NFLPA has got to be understanding of it. Joey says this is another way for the Chiefs to stay in the news during the playoffs. Listen, man, I'm not going to lie to you all. I always wondered, like, if the Chiefs were to miss the playoffs, what would we even talk about? We've had plenty to talk about this week, unfortunately. And that actually leads me to my next point here. Not that this is going to be a long conversation, but like, the Chiefs already have enough on their hands. They just missed the playoffs. I think everyone would like not just a normal offseason, but a long normal offseason where we don't have to deal with this BS. And then boom, not even a full week. Something has to come out. I recognize this allegedly happened earlier, but it's like, man, just one off season, please. Yeah, but Joey, I would think, like, what NFL team wants a bad image? Every team wants a great image. And listen, I had this conversation with someone a couple of days ago. I think something that's very unfair from the media, but also from fans. Nobody ever wants to talk about when players are doing charitable work. Unless you are a guy in a very high place like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Josh Allen, whenever they do something charitable, that gets talked about because of their name, their stature. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, guys who have, been MVPs, Super Bowl MVPs, they get that attention. But if, and I'm picking a name out of thin air here, if you are Jalen Watson, and this is no disrespect to Jalen Watson, but if Jalen Watson went to a restaurant in Las Vegas, how many people would recognize him? Probably not many. I'll be honest. I probably would not have recognized him, especially if he's wearing a hat, maybe even sunglasses, which some athletes do when they're out and about. They're not A-list celebrities or whatnot. But Jalen Watson, if he does something with his charity, something really big and significant, nobody talks about it. Nobody ever wants to talk about that stuff. People only want to talk about players off the field if they get into trouble. So, listen, man, obviously we got to wait on things, but it is not a good look for Rashee Rice. Wrapping things up here, John says, what do you think on Dave Toub Farzine? Is he next? The Chiefs have been kind of slow with their head coaching changes. Obviously, we saw Connor Embree was let go last night. We did see from Ian Rappaport, he said that there are more changes to come. I would imagine you have another offensive assistant that will get the pink slip, but listen, Nagy can't get fired because he's not under contract. Dave Toub, I do think Dave Toub might be on the way out. I don't know what's taking so long. I know there was a special teams coordinator that was let go today by Tampa Bay. So I don't know. Whether or not the allegation is true, her reporting this on Instagram cost her massive amounts of money in child support. If he makes less, she and her kids get less. Sure, but I think the domestic violence, if it's true, that is far more important than what you're talking about. I know, like me personally, do I care about their personal lives? No. But she obviously cares about herself, and she's looking out for herself. Child support, that's a lot of money. I get it. She'll figure that out, I'm sure. But if all of what she's saying is true, she's got to speak up. She's got to speak up. Okay, I'm going to go and get out of here. I appreciate you guys joining me on this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. We will be back in 21 hours. We will be doing the Red Friday Q&A live chat. So come in with your questions tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time. We'll maybe find out a little bit about Matt Nagy and some of the interviews that he's done this week. He'll have more. By the way, I didn't mention this on this podcast. Nagy is going to speak with the Cardinals tomorrow, Sunday. Guess who he's going to speak to? He is going to get interviewed by the Baltimore Ravens. Imagine replacing John Harbaugh with Matt Nagy. Oh boy. Cross your fingers, he goes to the Raiders, man. That would be, if you're not going to win the Super Bowl, if you're going to have a losing season and miss the playoffs, I guess the best substitute for that would be to have Matt Nagy go to the Raiders, but we'll see. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you all joining me. I'm Farzin Vasugian. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let your friends know about the Chiefs Zone podcast. I will talk to you all tomorrow for the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Peace out.